a self-taught home baker that's been making custom cakes since 2004 and in business since 2014. Ebony has party cakes for 20 people or more. Cupcakes are sold at a dozen and start at $60 for 24 cupcakes. My personal favorite is the buttercream cupcakes with sprinkles. Sound good? Call Ebony at 708-743-0705. That's 708-743-0705. Or email her at info@ebbycakes.com. That's info@ebicakes.com. Her business hours are Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Whether it's an entire party cake or just cupcakes, Ebony has whatever your sweet tooth craves. Call 708-743-0705. 708-743-0705. Ebby Cakes is what you need. And now back to Ask Pastor Deb on WOSDRadio.com.
Welcome back to Ask Pastor Deb. Oh, I just love to worship God, and I am so glad that we add the music into this program because this is WOSD, your home of old school and dusty, and the music is what we do here. And so although this is a talk show, we also keep the music going. And so tune in regularly, okay, Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, to listen to some good old school and dusty's music. Even on Sundays, we still have some dusty gospel. All right. Okay. So let's get back into our 15 tips of grieving, especially during the holidays. We as caregivers, we as family members of our loved ones, it's always harder to grieve during holidays, and we can look to Jesus to give us tools and tips and techniques in order to be able to survive. And we can always go to him. That's the main thing he wants us to do. And so he gives us all these tips so that we can turn quickly to him. He says, come, all who are heavy laden, all of you who are burdened, come to me and I will give you rest. And that doesn't always mean sleep. It means rest, where your mind can stop worrying and your mind can just relax and allow him to comfort you. And so the fifth one we're going to start off with is honor their holiday traditions. These are tips on how the grieving process can be handled if we honor their traditions. Matthew 15 verses 1 through 20, and I'm going to read it. And this is from the Message rendition. It says that after that, Pharisees and religion scholars came to Jesus all the way from Jerusalem, criticizing, "Why do your disciples play fast and loose with the rules?" But Jesus put it right back on them. Why do you use your rules to play fast and loose with God's commandments? God clearly says, respect your father and mother, and anyone denouncing father or mother should be killed. But you weasel around that by saying, whoever wants to can say to father and mother, what I owe to you, I've given to God. That can hardly be called respecting a parent. You cancel God's command by your rules. Frauds. Isaiah's prophecy of you hit the bullseye. These people make a big show of saying the right thing, but their heart isn't in it. They act like they're worshiping me, but they don't mean it. They just use me as a cover for teaching whatever suits their fancy. He then called the crowd together and said, listen and take this to heart. It's not what you swallow that pollutes your life, but what you vomit up. Later, his disciples came and told him, Did you know how upset the Pharisees were when they heard what you said?" Jesus shrugged it off. "Every tree that wasn't planted by my Father in heaven will be pulled up by its roots. Forget them. They are blind men leading blind men. When a blind man leads a blind man, they both end up in a ditch." Peter said, "I don't get it. Put it in plain language." Jesus replied, "You too? Are you being willfully stupid? Don't you know that anything that is swallowed works its way through the intestines and is finally defecated? But what comes out of the mouth gets its start in the heart. It's from the heart that we vomit up evil arguments, murders, adulteries, fornication, thefts, lies, and cussing. That's what pollutes. Eating or not eating certain foods, washing or not washing your hands, that's neither here nor there. Wow. Listen, we have to honor their traditions. Now, this is the part that gets me all the time, because just during Thanksgiving, I didn't want to cook. I didn't want to do anything, because that to me felt too close to my parents and my brother. That was the one thing that no matter where we were, where we lived, in the state of Illinois or in other states, we would always come together for the holidays. Our families would come together, my children and my brother's children. My mother would have her nieces and nephews sometime come over. We were always together. And so we always honored their traditions. So let me explain. My mother always cooked a big dinner for Thanksgiving. And the time was always 3 o'clock. And so when I grew up with my children, I would always go to my mother's house at 3 o'clock. But then when I started having things at my own home, it was the same thing. I honored what they did. I cooked up all this food and we had dinner at 3 o'clock, and I started inviting my mother and my father and my brother over to my house. And so we always honored the traditions. And of course we had the naysayers. "Oh, you're supposed to do it a different way. This is we would go, it's the 70s now, it's the 80s now. You don't have to do it like y'all used to do." But it was always important, as a great memory to my mother and my father, as her mother and father did, and her mother and father's mother and father did. So the tradition was always there. And that's one of the ways that you can grieve and your emotions are, felt, because you are honoring their traditions. But then here's another one. Here's another tip. The 6th one. It says to try new holiday traditions. Like I said, we did. So, one of the things I did this year was I didn't cook anything like I normally cook. As a matter of fact, me and my daughter cooked on every day of the week. We fixed something on Monday and we ate it. We fixed something on Tuesday and we ate that. We fixed something on Wednesday and we ate that. So by the time it got to Thanksgiving, which was on Thursday, we had eaten most of our favorite things, and whatever we had left, that's what we ate. And so now I got some new traditions. The 7th thing is, it says to leave town altogether. Wow. It says to leave town altogether. Go somewhere new. Well, I didn't want to do that this year, but I want to read you what Jesus did. Okay. In Mark 6 verses 10, Mark chapter 6 verses 1 through 10. Okay. It says, he left there and returned to his hometown. His disciples came along on the Sabbath. He gave a lecture in the meeting place. He made it a real hit, impressing everyone. We had no idea that he was just good, they said. How did he get so wise all of a sudden and get such ability? I think I've read this before. Let me go down to the 7th and 8th verse. And then it said, Jesus called the 12 to him and sent them out in pairs. And he gave them authority and power to deal with the evil opposition. He sent them off with these instructions. Don't think you need a lot of extra equipment for this. You are the equipment. No special appeals for funds. Keep it simple. And no luxury ends. Get a modest place and be content there until you leave. And so I just love that right there, because what's happening with me is, after all this grieving that I have been doing, I was supposed to write a book called Big Shoes to Fill, My Caregiver Journey. And God told me, I want you to be the book. I want you to go out and let the people see you. You don't have to worry about places to stay, because where I send you, you're going to have reasonable accommodations. You're going to be able to afford the places where I need you to go. And you're going to be able to talk to people. And you're going to be able to share my grace with others and how you survive this caregiver journey. Number 8 is to connect with others. We have to connect with other people. And that's what God is doing with me now. He's allowing me to go around and just share my caregiver journey. Big Shoes to Fill, My Caregiver Journey was the name of my book, but now it's the name of my podcast. I'm sharing my journey on podcasts. I'm sharing my journey at different conferences and workshops, just to help people with the grieving process and with the caregiving process. The other thing, number 9, says to focus on activities that fulfill you. These are awesome activities that I'm getting ready to start doing. And that is, talking with other people, meeting with families, allowing them an opportunity to see that, yes, it was a long caregiving journey, but I tell you, I survived it and I'm still surviving it. And God is the focus through it all. He gets all the glory. My witness is able to be magnified by all the things that I have gone through as a caregiver and as a grieving daughter and sibling. It's so important. Number 10 is to remember the happy times. Boy, can I remember the happy times. I just saw the movie It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the story of Mr. Rogers. And when I got in the movie theater, I was so excited because I remember all of Mr. Rogers' shows, because I watched them and then my children watched them. And it was just so exciting to see the twist that they put on the movie. It was, without telling you the movie, it had a nice twist to it. I thought it was going to be a story about him, and it turned out to be a story about forgiveness and a story about how you can overcome some things. And one of the things in there was grieving a lost loved one. It was an awesome story. One thing I took from him is that he was talking about death and how hard it is sometimes to grieve a person, or, you act like you can't really talk about it. Okay. The person doesn't matter. And he said, if you're human, we matter. And if we matter, it's okay to mention the person or mention the death of the person. And that just stuck with me. It just really, really, really stuck in my soul. And, I just have to remember all of the happy times, and it does matter. And I can think about them and think about the fun times that we had. And I know my mom and my dad would have loved the Mr. Rogers movie, and even my brother, because we grew up, with A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And those were happy times. Number 11 says, be better and not bitter. I like that. Be better and not bitter. No matter what happened, I know I had a rough time with my family, my, not my immediate family, but some of my cousins and my mother, my aunts and uncles and stuff around. Each time one of my family members passed away, because, you may not have done things the way that they thought it should be done, but by you being the next of kin, you know, you had to do what